Hey coders, and welcome to episode 3 of our App Engine playlist on the Google Cloud Platform course. In this episode, we're going to be learning about A/B testing. A/B testing is a must-know if you are going to be a developer because quite honestly, it appears in every single application. So whether you're working in a corporation working on an application, or maybe a marketing survey, or even a political campaign, there's a high probability in which you will have to utilize A/B testing in that application. So I believe it is a fair statement to say that we should take a healthy review of what A/B testing actually is. So A/B testing at a high-level overview is nothing more than just running an experiment on your own application. So let's say the current state of our application is similar to what is depicted in version A. We are selling t-shirts on this application, but everywhere where we see text or banners or buttons, the color of those components are all gray. And we have let's say that we have a hypothesis that if we were to change that color from gray to say blue, to bright blue, then maybe the colors will pop out more, it will get our visitors more excited about the site, and then that will result in more people buying our t-shirts. Well, remember, this is only a hypothesis, and if we're already making a steady income, say on version A, we won't want to just route 100% of our traffic over to version B, our hypothesis version, because it might actually not be the case that this will result in more conversions. So instead of just routing 100% of the traffic from version A to version B, we decide instead to upload version B, but then route only 50% of that traffic, which means that 50% of our site visitors will see version A, and 50% of our site visitors will see version B. Now remember, we don't have to do 50-50 split. We could do something like a 20-80 or a 199. But for this example, let's say that we did a 50-50 split. So again, 50%, this is the same time frame. 50% will be visiting version A, and then 50% version B. Now we let some time run, let's say 3 months or so, and then we look at the data. So let's say from version A, we had 17% of our site visitors buying this t-shirt. But with version B, we see that 31% of the people who visited version B resulted in buying the t-shirt. So from this data, we could run some statistical tests, see if this was statistically significant, and if it was, we might decide then to route 100% of the traffic from version A all the way to version B and have version B just be our site going forward. So that is exactly what A/B testing is. Now, for this example, I just made it simple so that we only had 2 different versions, but we don't have to just have version A and version B. You can split your traffic in as many different versions as you like. In fact, in a famous example, Google once had 40 different versions testing out 40 different shades of blue on their site and seeing which ones the users liked best. So that is an extreme example, but A/B testing, even if you just did 2 different versions, it can be extremely powerful for your site and result in more conversions. So the top 2 topics which I have picked out for today's episode are version control and secondly, avoiding caching problems. So let's dive on in over to the live demonstration to learn more about applying A/B testing to your own App Engine applications. Again, A/B testing is an extremely important topic for you in your career as a developer. So if you want to become a master at it, be sure to strap down, buckle in, and stay until the end of this video. So let's take a look at the current state of our application by clicking on this link in the upper right hand corner. It's going to give us a notice that we are redirecting here. Yep, that's exactly what we want to do. Alright, so this is the current homepage that is uploaded to the internet. It says David Weiss Programming, and then it prompts us to watch programming videos for AppScript and Google Cloud by clicking on this button right here that says Watch Videos. And once we do, we are directed to this page where we have a couple videos that we can watch on this channel. So let's say that we get some data and some analytics, maybe even from the App Engine dashboard itself, that's saying that there are a lot of users who are, and a lot of site visitors who are hitting this page and viewing this page, but there's a huge drop off from this page and a huge bounce rate from this page before any of the viewers and visitors can actually click on this button and go to this page right here. And let's say that we have a hypothesis for this. Let's say we think this is the case because this button down here is too far down the screen and quite literally not enough of the viewers and visitors can see this button, and so they don't really know what to do after they hit this page, this home page right here. So let's form a hypothesis. Let's say we think that this button will be clicked more often if it is higher on the screen and more apparent to the site visitors. So they will be able to see it better and they'll be able to click on it more frequently. So in order to do that, we first need to make that happen. And if we go back into our code editor, we make a few modifications to the HTML as well as the CSS, and then we have to test it in our local server. So we say node server.js. It says app deployed at this port, so let's go and check that out. If we refresh, then we come up with this UI right here. So this button now, the watch videos, has been moved higher on the screen as well as it is given its own side of the screen. So we are thinking that maybe this will attract more site visitors to click on this button right here, watch videos. So the first thing to do if we want to A/B test this and this site, if we want to A/B test this UI right here, is we need to upload it to Google Cloud, and we need to upload it to the App Engine. So to do that, we first exit out of this local server, and then we say our favorite command, gcloud app deploy. But before I do that, actually, I want to do one more thing. I want to point out one more thing, and that is the version name. So right now we have not been specifying any version names. So when we go into see all the versions that we have, they all default to this format, this date format. So this is the date format which you will get as your version name if you do not manually specify your own custom version name. And the way to read this, it's very simple. It's just the year, so 2021, and then the next two digits are the month, 03, which is March, the date, 02, and then you get a timestamp after this T, which is basically the time on your computer. So it's 11:37 and 43 seconds, right? And this is in military time as well. So if you get something that says something like 16:17, this is actually 4:17 p.m. and 10 seconds. So this is definitely okay. I actually leave it like this a lot of the time. I like this version name. But let's say you're working for a corporation and they want to have a specific version name. Well, the way to do that, to write out your own version names, is instead of saying gcloud app deploy, you say gcloud app deploy space 2 hyphens version equals, and then whatever version name you want to assign to that version. So for right now, I'm just going to say version A, and actually let me put a hyphen in between the version and the A, and then I'll hit the enter button. So this is going to deploy this version. As you can see under the target version, this is now going to be the version name. So I'll say yes, and it's uploading, so I will speed this up for you. Alright, so our latest version has just been deployed to App Engine. So let's go and check that out to see if that is actually the case. So if we go up here now into our application that's on the internet, here is the URL. If we refresh this page, then if it worked correctly, again, here we go. So now we have the latest version on this page right here. You can see it matches our local server right here. So that is very good. So again, but we want to actually A/B test this. We don't want 100% of the traffic going to this page right here. So how do we do that? Well, we go back into our dashboard and we click on this tab right here that says versions. So this is where you're going to see all of the versions that you have uploaded to App Engine. And from here you can see such things such as the traffic allocation, the number of instances that are running on each of these versions, the runtime, size, deployed. And this is really cool because right now we have this version A, the one that we just uploaded, serving 100% of the traffic. But we can always roll back to different versions by clicking on the version that you want to roll back to and then clicking on this button, say migrate traffic, and that will serve all of the traffic to now this version that we have selected. So that is pretty cool, but we actually want to now split the traffic, right? We want to do some A/B testing. So this is the version that we have that we just were serving, right? This is the vertical column. But again, we want to now serve this where we have the side-by-side and the watch videos button a little bit higher up on the screen. So the way to A/B test this is to select both of the versions that you want and then click on this button right here that says split traffic. Great, so there are 3 different ways in which we can split this traffic. We can split it by IP address, cookie, and randomly. So if you are doing this more in a production environment and you are doing it for, say, a big corporation, I would recommend splitting it by IP address and or cookie. So IP address is basically we're going to look at your IP address and we're only going to serve you one version all of the time, basically. So that actually is really helpful. So that way the same user isn't flip-flopping in between versions every time they visit your site, right? So cookie is basically we're going to store a cookie on your browser again, and we're going to just assign one version to that cookie. But for the demonstration purposes of this video, I'm actually going to select random, and that is basically regardless of whatever computer you are accessing the site from or whatever you have in your cookies, we are just going to serve you a different version based on whatever percent or probability that you give per version, right? So right now, let's allocate our traffic split. So I'm just going to give a 50-50 split. You can give it whatever you want. If you want to roll it out slowly, say, you can say version A is only going to receive 10% of the traffic, while this control version is receiving 90%. But I'm just going to do a 50-50 split, again, for demonstration purposes. And now I'm going to hit the save button. And there we go. So it says traffic split settings saved successfully. So let's go and check out and see if this is the case. So if we go now into our application and we hit the refresh button, then that looks like it actually worked, which is actually pretty exciting, right? We just split the traffic in between 2 separate versions. Remember, it was this version, but now 50% of the time it's going to be this version. But before we jump up and have a celebration, let's actually make sure that this is exactly how we expect it to work. So let's keep on hitting the refresh button. So that's good. We get that 50% of the time, and we get that another 50% of the time. But sometimes we get something like this. So this is an abnormality, right? This is not something which we expect. For some reason, this isn't any of the versions that we uploaded. And for some reason, it looks like the CSS is off. Let's keep hitting the refresh button. So there we go again. And sometimes we will get this right here. So again, this is not what we are expecting. This is an abnormality, and we definitely do not want to present this to our end users, right? We either want this right here or the one where it's all vertical, right? So this is definitely a bug, and this is something that you need to take in account whenever you are doing A/B testing, and this is what is known as caching problems. So whenever you are serving HTML files, dynamic files, or say static files like CSS files, sometimes those files will be cached in your browser so that to reduce the amount of requests made over the internet, right? And this is actually a really good thing. Caching is really good. However, if you are doing A/B testing or rolling out a new version in general, sometimes this is not good because it will actually cache versions of your CSS files, static files on your browser, and it will just serve those from your browser when you actually have an update to those files, right? So that is what caching is. I'm not going to go in too deeply on that, but that is a problem, and that is actually a widespread problem. It's very known, and it's so known, in fact, that Google Cloud put this on their documentation. It says, avoiding caching issues. It says, before you turn on traffic splitting, you might want to account for potential caching problems. Caching issues can exist for any App Engine application, especially when deploying a new version. Traffic splitting often makes subtle caching problems more apparent. So that is, again, a widespread problem that is known, and people probably are working on it, but this is just something that you need to take in account for whenever you do A/B testing. So to avoid caching problems, it says for dynamic resources, set both the cache control and expires headers. And then for cacheable static resources that vary between versions, change the resources URL between versions. If the static resources are served from different URLs, then both versions can happily coexist in proxy servers and browser caches. So that is two things you always need to do whenever you are A/B testing. So let's do that right now. We go back into our code, and the first thing we need to do is take into consideration our dynamic resources. So again, this is not a Node.js tutorial or an Express tutorial, so I'm just going to do this very quickly. I'm just basically going to write some middleware that sets the response headers for this application. So let me go. I'll say function. I'll say request, response, next. And then this is now, I'm going to access the set method from our response so that we can set some application or response headers. Let's go cache control. I'll say no store. And then also expires, I'll say 0. Again, remember, it says to set both of them, set both the cache control and the expires headers, and that is exactly what we are doing right here. So I'll put a semicolon and then I'll call next. Great, so we have just now set the cache control and expires headers for the dynamic resources. So this can be crossed off, and now we need to set our static resources. Right, so to do that, again, we need to change the resources URL between versions. So let's do that. So here is our current CSS. Actually, let's go back and copy all of this right now. And we are going to now create a new CSS file for version 2. Again, we need to change the URL, so that's what we're going to do. We first need to, oops, I said VS. I actually want that to be V2. All right, let me paste this code right here. So this is our version 2 CSS. And let's change our version 1 CSS and get rid of all this. Get rid of this. Get rid of this. Alrighty. And so now we want our version 1 CSS. So I'm going to comment this div tag out. And right now, here is the URL for our version 1 index.css. That's exactly what we want. So I'm going to upload this for version 1. I'll say gcloud app deploy. And let me make sure everything is looking correctly. It looks like it. So I will now enter. Yes, I want to continue. So let me speed this up right now while it uploads. Alright, so version 1 has just been uploaded. Let's do the same thing for now version 2. And so I will uncomment these out, and then again I will change the URL to this CSS file right here, to index2 right there. I'll hit save, and then I'll deploy now this version as version 2. I'll say gcloud app deploy. And yes. And then I'll speed this up. Okay, so our second version now has just been deployed, and now let's split the traffic between both of those versions. So let's go back and refresh this page. And as you can see, right now, these are the two versions that we just uploaded. As you can see, is 146 and 145. That's around the same time that we have right here. And let's split that traffic in between those two versions like we did before. I'll say random again, and then I will split it 50-50. All right, and I'll hit save. It's updating. Alright, so traffic split settings have now been saved successfully, and we have avoided the caching problem. So let's see if this is actually working now. So I'll go back up in here, I'll refresh the page, and so far so good. Let's keep refreshing to see if this works. And so far it looks like it's good. And it actually is good. So we can keep hitting this refresh button if you're not convinced, but this is actually going to work every single time. We're going to get only these two versions, which is pretty dang cool. So we have just done some A/B testing. Now we can get some results from, say, the dashboard. And then we can look at, say, the two versions which are deployed now and get some more data on them. And we have also avoided the caching problem, which is something that is quite serious that not a lot of people actually cover on. So guys, that is it for this video. I hope you enjoyed this one and learned something from it. If you did, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, and please consider donating to my Patreon page. It really supports the development of these videos as well. Alright guys, until next time, I'll see you in the very next video.